Hello, everybody. So fun to be back with you.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Kelly.
Hello, hello. As we're entering these wintry times, and it's not quite so wintry in Dallas, but definitely here in Indy, we got some serious snow, and we're getting more snow next week. And this morning, we were just out walking the dogs, realizing, oh my goodness, with the snow and the ice and the dogs pulling, like how easy it could be to fall.
Yeah,
Like in seconds in your environment to be down. And I think a lot of times we're all out traveling. Maybe it's just to a friend's house, or it could be you're traveling around the world, and the environment can be so different. And one of the things I think we don't really talk about is how do you prepare yourself if you fall to not break a hip in the future or to not have those falls? And is it just like inevitable? Like, do you just live life and if it happens, it happens, right, Heidi? I mean, you're
right.
seeing women in their 50s, but you have women into their 70s and 80s seeing you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And all with that same concern. Like, oh, knock on wood, I haven't fallen and I want to keep that way. Is there a special supplement? Is there a special exercise? What do I need to do? And I'm like, well, it seems to be what you're doing is working so far. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I
I
see it.
think the number one thing that I hear from women, and when I was in my late 30s, I was sharing with you that I fell into this, and the doctor's like, oh, any women at this time, they must be taking calcium. So I think to help keep our bones strong, just like there's other myths that we've all gotten, away from of things of like, sugar free and the fat free and all these crazes that we thought was helpful at one time, but it isn't. We're learning now that this calcium that we're all supposed to be taking actually isn't helping us with keeping our bones strong.
Right, exactly. It's what we're finding is calcium, just taking it doesn't automatically mean it's going to support the bones. Calcium unabsorbed is calcium that can harm our vasculature, can stick and cause plaquing and calcification. So we want to make sure whatever calcium we're taking, we're absorbing it,
And I think
right?
many times is like we were also saying is there's this balance of all of those nutrients. And I was taking so much, it was robbing me, it was blocking me from absorbing other things that I needed. And I wasn't even taking that high of a dose, but I just didn't need it at all.
Right, exactly. It's really interesting, and I find, if you've been with me for 10 minutes, I think the body is the most amazing thing on ever because it does innately do things that it's designed to do, and it just does these things. Thank goodness. If we had to think about it functioning, we wouldn't have a civilization, would we, Kelly?
No, no.
But it calcium seems to be one of the most important nutrients. And so, whatever powers that be created a gland that says, oh, you know what? We better manage that calcium within the body because it's not going to get readily absorbed through diet and lifestyle completely, not the amount that we need. And so, there's a gland, that parathyroid gland, that helps with calcium balance. So, every time you work out, every time you jump up and down, bang your bones. We activate, every time we move, we activate the parathyroid gland, and it really charges up or balances that calcium in our body. And so extra calcium hasn't really proven to be that effective in reducing, um, osteoarthritis, breaks, etc., or the remodeling of our bones as we age.
It was a really interesting statistic that we were talking about earlier. If you think about around the world, that we're the most highly uh, uh,
Calcium supplemented.
there we go, the highly calcium supplemented country, but yet here we are still having the most hip fractures of anywhere around the world.
By far. And now we're not just leading by a little bit. We're way ahead of everyone else. Even countries that are considered malnutritioned, malnourished, or they don't have the food, they're not eating, they're thin, but their bones are really strong. And we
That's
have to look at that difference.
yes. And I think for way too long, we've always kept the focus on what we look like externally. And we forget that no, it's how do you optimize internally? And bone health is one of those things that you just think as you get older, you lose bone growth. And you may get a hip fracture as you're getting older. I mean, it could be any fracture, but hip fractures, I mean, let me tell you, from working in the hospital for years, is once a woman or a man, but we're talking about women here. You come in, once you get that hip fracture, your chances of survival for the next 3 to 5 years plummet significantly. You just shorten your lifespan dramatically after that hip fracture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not a
Plummet
little
is a
bit, you
great
guys.
word.
Like, yeah, you get a fracture at 72, maybe you're going to live to 92, and now you're going to live to 75. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like that. Your health declines.
Yeah, it's a big drop off, and Kelly knows that better than anybody because she gets to see it. She had to work with it. Um, but like any disease, like any destruction or degradation of any part of our body, it's a process of years, right? We don't get cancer overnight. We don't get diabetes overnight. We don't get cardiovascular disease overnight. It's a years of buildup. So, what is health? Just change the mindset. Bone health is years of doing the things that encourage the bones to stay strong. And that's foundational stuff for anything. Manage your blood sugars, eat right, get plenty of veggies so you have all the nutrients, all the micronutrients that are needed as catalyst to support bone growth, remodeling, ligament and tendon strength. And make sure your muscles are good because that's the guy that's protecting those bones and keeping them, good and solid. Have a client who had a hip replacement and it keeps popping out. So she'll be traveling or doing somewhere and it keeps popping out and painful, horrible. But when I had a visit with her, I said, I don't mean to get personal, but that butt cheek where your hip replacement is compared to your other butt cheek is it's in which, let's face it, it's a big muscle. Our buns are a muscle. It's non-existent compared to the other one. So we need to do some PT on strengthening that butt cheek to support that hip to keep that replacement in. So there's these things we can do, and that's kind of a side note, but look at your muscles. If you have one side weaker than the other, one hip weaker than the other, one quad bigger than the other, or no hamstrings, it's all about the hammies. You really want to get a trainer and focus on those exercises to strengthen those muscles to support your bones ultimately.
Yes, and I'm hoping any woman listening to this, you've heard Heidi and I over and over talk about like we need to be lifting and lifting heavy in like so 2 to 3 times a week, right? We've got to be lifting those weights and working the muscles to protect our bones. But what you said was quite fascinating because sometimes when I'm doing bilateral things with the whole body or my lower body, I don't notice a different right to left. But then when I go into unilateral, I'm like, ooh, my balance here is not like, oh, my strength or my balance is so different on right to left. So that really tells us, ladies, that we need to be doing some unilateral activities. Otherwise, whatever side is, quote, stronger, we will always favor. And the brain and the body is so smart, it won't go, well, hold on, let's this side needs more work. Let's keep going to this side. It will always go towards the side you're stronger, more balanced, feel more comfortable. Your brain actually thinks that could even be center, and you're like, just 10 degrees off center. So the opposite side isn't quite getting the intensity. So the only way to bypass that is to do some unilateral work,
I love
to
that,
force
Kelly.
that side
Everyone
to
needs to
work
do
harder.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Great explanation. Yeah, it's the way the brain, like you beautifully stated, thinks that this is center based on the muscle feedback, and it's really off, and that ultimately will lead one to being at a higher risk for falling, tripping, etc.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Heidi, if anybody wants to take a product, of course, they need to be sure in that whole, like, calcium mindset of potentially really going to D3, just in taking some random calcium supplements with K2. Is that what you would suggest for like
Yeah,
supporting bone growth for sure? Yeah. I,
absolutely.
I mean,
Now,
vitamin D is like
if
a hero.
yeah, vitamin D is a hero, but it really needs magnesium and it needs vitamin K to be absorbed appropriately, optimally, and that's what we want. We want everything to work well so we're not just having expensive urine. We want, let's get that to work. If you're young, if you're in your, youth, you probably want a little bit more calcium, especially if you're thinking about getting pregnant, having a family. But if you're menopausal, it stops becoming a calcium issue and it becomes a vitamin D, K issue. So be clear of where you are and what you need.
Ah, I love that. I love that. So let's just jump right in. And if we were to really tell all of the audience, okay, here we are. You are like envisioning your future self, which we talk a lot about. And hip fracture is not in your future self, ladies, right? Let's like, no, let's put that out there. So if we were talking about like the few core things that are really essential to help significantly decrease your risk in the future, let's
Mhm.
talk about that for people. So I think the first thing that we were talking about that you were saying like as a kid is we jump around and we rebound and we you don't even think about we're doing those things and as adulthood we don't. But it's becoming trendy again,
Yeah,
right?
it's becoming, be like a kid, run around, jump up and down, scream. Kids can't help it. That's the wonderful thing about watching a child grow up and also putting up with please stop jumping on the sofa. Please stop jumping over the the ladder or the slide outside. These kinds of funny things that they do, but they can't help it. They have to move because their bones are wanting to grow. And that's the way the bone gets the signal to the brain and then the brain back to the bones. Hey man, if this kid's going to jump around, we better get strong. And so it's this lovely little feedback that is innately designed and works beautifully. And as we get older, we get more sedentary, so we lose that signal. And now that movement is becoming more trendy. It's back in back in action. And the trick is, again, that whole lead up to disease is just never stop moving. Just keep moving, keep adding to your challenges. You don't have to beat yourself up. In fact, I highly recommend you don't. But you want to have a challenge. Keep the bones challenged, keep your movements channeled, strengthen the muscles. But it's that challenge, the bouncing up and down, um, even just raising up on your toes and then dropping
Ooh.
down on your heels so you feel a little da 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 in your jaw and everything. Do that 10 times while you're chopping cheese or whatever, right? Um, these are signals to the brain to say, oh, we're doing bone stuff, and the brain then does its action to tell the bones to strengthen.
And whether it's the rebounder, whether it's Vibe Plate, whether you're seeing people, it's like all over social media right now. It's really for like nervous system regulation, but you see people doing all this bouncing, and that's actually it's perfect. I mean, of what we should
Okay.
be doing, and it gives you all sorts of health benefits, which I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's not one more thing to do. It's just do it within what your life is you're already doing. If
Exactly.
you're going to
Like
go to the
just,
gym, do a 3 to 5 minute warm up of some bouncing and rebounding and jumping and things like that. And we don't mean like jumping up on a 2 foot box, right? You guys, like it doesn't have to be like, CrossFit mega something. No.
plyometrics, that's not exactly. A little box will do, right? A little step will do. Your stairs in your
Exactly.
house, the step off your porch, these will do.
Yes, yes. Okay, so next, let's talk about if we were to say, all right, so all of that, and we're going to kind of throw lifting in there because lifting, again, the muscles to support around all those bones is they're both they go hand in hand. They're both
Yeah.
essential. Let's just talk about if somebody says, okay, great. What about nutrition or supplements for bone health and bone growth? Because there's a lot out there, and some are probably more effective than others. And the first thing let's talk about, Heidi, is collagen, because I would say over 50% of women our age are taking a collagen supplement. They don't know what to look for, and they don't even know that some collagen supplements can support actually bone growth.
Yeah. There is a lot of collagen junk out there. Um, a lot of people will just start taking collagen because they hear so much about it, and I think I need collagen, so they find the cheapest one they can or the most popular one, the one that has the most space on the shelf. Oh, that must be a good one, right? Um, the research, when you dive into, okay, what is the better one? As a practitioner, Kellie and I, and advise people and say, "Oh, I want to really advise on the best one." And what we have found and what I have seen clinically is a collagen. It's by LifeVantage, but it's marine derived. It actually reaches more peptides, the number of peptides in the body than any other collagen, and helps to remodel the bones. And what it also does is it signals the body to make it on its own. So you take it to make it, sort of thing. Excuse me a second. I have someone.
And I'll just continue, you guys, because I took a deep dive into collagen thinking it is good, but I was overwhelmed with the choices that were out there. And I wanted to know if I'm going to take a collagen, I want to take one that actually works. And what was exciting is when we can start activating the level of our genes, which we can do through food and lifestyle, right? We can regulate our gene expression to have a collagen that can actually flip the switch of your genes to make collagen again or turn off the genes that degrade our collagen. I mean, long story short, it's the truth. We weren't designed to live long. And so by our mid 20s, our collagen production really declines. So unfortunately, that's why all of a sudden at 40, you're like, what happened to my face? Where did these wrinkles come from? And at 50, you're like, OMG. And that's just what happens because we weren't
Right,
designed to live past like 60, right? But
right.
now, very different lifestyle, very different life expectancy for all of us, but the processes haven't changed. So we need to do something to support the process. And Heidi, just like you were saying, the body is truly this miracle
Yeah,
in everything it
yeah.
does.
And here's a one thing to point out again. So as I pointed out, the musculature of this person that had the hip replacement, the body lets us know. It'll show up in ways to say, "Hey, I'm having trouble here," by that atrophy of that muscle. When we look at our face, when we look at our skin, our hairs and nails, if it's happening out here, it's happening in here. And so let's go foundational. Let's get the inside to work and the outside will change. Putting on creams and injections and things like that, they're temporary. The real health of our skin, hair, nails, joints, ligaments, tendons comes from inside with that collagen and with turning on that gene set.
Wow. Okay, so that's awesome, you guys. And we'll be sure in the show notes to like, put all of this. And any other, some people are supplement junkies. I think go simple these days, you guys. Don't overdo it or maybe cycle things. But if there was one other supplement for people that like, I have osteopenia or I have this in my family, I'm worried about this. Maybe we can talk about that. And then I'd love to just end with your experience of OsteoStrong.
Yeah, I really believe in a company called, and I have no affiliate ties or anything, AlgaeCal. They have really good research and really good product. I also am a big believer if you just wanted to go, I just need one thing, right? I can't do three products. Strontium is is the thing that strengthens our bones. And they have it in supplement form. You take it on an empty stomach, one or two a day. And I challenge people maybe do that for 3 to 4 months and see how they feel. But that is the key ingredient to really help strengthen bone.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And beyond lifting, if somebody's like, I either need help or I'm struggling, there are some really great resources that people can go to. And so maybe just share either your experience or some clients' experience with these gyms that are out there that you can go once a week to really help you start rebuilding bone.
Yeah. So OsteoStrong is they have a franchise all over. So if you can find yourself an OsteoStrong, it's a franchise, but the machines, the theory is all the same and it's conducted the same. Um, it's a bit of a challenge to sort of understand, but what it is they have figured out the algorithm that says how much pressure of this machine do I have to apply with my strength for 10 seconds to create that response we were talking about earlier, to get your brain to turn on to say, "Oh, we better strengthen some bone. This activity is telling us to strengthen bone." That's the feedback from the brain to the bones, right? And this is the motherboard. So if we can activate it here, trigger it here, it's a good spot, right? And that's what OsteoStrong has figured out. So you do maybe 4 exercises that are specific for legs, spine, shoulders, arms, all of these, and you get that feedback. It takes about 15 minutes to go through the whole routine, maybe 10. And you're done. And you do it once a week. Everyone is like, oh, come on. It's once a week and I'm just in there 10 minutes. This can't possibly be true. But when you really get the right signal, the body is amazing and it will work and it will do that thing. Personally, I had osteopenia, so I was in that perimenopause thing, and I was very interested in OsteoStrong and testing that out because I wasn't going to take any high dose calcium, etc. And I got out of osteopenia and back to normal from doing that in 1 year. I've had several clients that I've recommended that to that have come back and said, my doctor redid the DEXA scan. I have improvement. They wanted to do it again because they said that doesn't ever happen. And they were just thrilled. So it works. You have to be consistent. 1 time a week, I think we can do it. And use all the effort you have so that it'll calibrate correctly. But I think you'll be very pleased, and the outcomes are definitive. The research is solid.
Yeah, I love that. And if you don't have one in your area, there are other like private entities that have the similar technology in their equipment that you potentially could find. But if you're just like, I just need to lift at home or just my local gym down the street, just remember it's about lifting hard. And if you lift only a little bit, you're not giving your brain the signal. So that's why you'll always say, Heidi and I, that the body needs the challenge, the struggle. So lift, we don't want you to get injured, of course, but you do need to lift so by the time you're on rep number 6 or 7 or 8, you're like, I don't know if I could do one more. Like this was a lot. So please be sure you work with somebody if you at all feel like you don't know what you're doing. We want you to be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Safety first.
Safety first. You guys, we hope this was like educational because, it's not like bone health isn't really sexy until you have a hip fracture and then you're like, oh, I should have paid more attention to that. And again, what you'll hear us again and again and again talk about what you do today shows up in the next 10 and 20 years. So you're going to be the one that's out, hiking or walking or golfing and having so much fun and success because your wealth of well-being is so high because you've done the things today.
Yeah. Start the work now. It'll save you later.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Well, today was fun, and be careful out there if you're anywhere that's like wintry or ice or snow. No falls, no falls for this winter, that's for sure. Or worst case scenario, what I even think is like concussion from falling and smacking your head on the ice is definitely no fun. We've seen way too many of those. So take care of your bones, take care of your muscles, and be well.
Be well. Take care, everyone.
We'll see you next week, everyone.
Bye bye.